So thanks for joining us. We are working on the Creative Memories Project Recipe Passport to Adventure this evening. This is Kari Schick. I'm here with Cheryl Bliss and Colleen Day, part of the Consistently Creative crew. And every Wednesday we get together and work on our things and do a little bit of scrapbooking or photo organizing or something, and you're always welcome to join us. We're here on Zoom tonight assembling the Creative Memories Project recipe, and this is what their sample layout that they have. And it's a pretty simple layout, but it's with their brand new collection, Passport to Adventure. So I think everybody's going to enjoy putting this one together. So the sample layout here that they have has some information what the sketch is going to look like once you've completed cutting out the specific papers. And on their handout, they have their cutting guide, which is using 2 designer papers that we're going to be cutting, as well as some white cardstock to use as photo mats. And then these circles are going to be the background for some of these shapes that we're going to cut. So just a couple of comments for you here. These shapes that they have that are with the new compass punch, they recommend using the red, actually the inside of the smallest circle cutting system pattern with the red blade. If you choose a different punch to use, you probably are going to want to determine what size circle you want to use to actually have it be the mat for these different shapes. So if you look at their sample layout, they use this compass, and I'm going to see if I can zoom in a little bit. The tips and the points on the north, south, east, west on their compass are actually extending all the way to that outside edge and maybe even a little bit over. So if you really want the circle to go all around the shape, you probably want to go with a slightly larger circle pattern to do this. So that's just a comment for you. If you are looking to do the layout the way that they presented it, the yellow patterned paper, which is like a tonal paper, is the base paper. So they use 2 sheets of this yellow paper, and then the other 2 papers is what they trimmed. So I'm going to show you part of the advisor guide so you can kind of see this. So this is what they use. They use these 2 yellow sheets of tonal paper as their bases. Then they use this blue sheet and then this one with the circle designs on it. They also suggested 2 different pairings that you could use with the 2 bases and then cutting the 2 designer papers, and again, 2 bases and cutting 2 designer papers. So these are some other suggested pairings that you might want to try and use with this kit. In addition, the things that you need are your trimmer, your adhesive, your circle cutting system, or some other method of cutting a circle for this. And that is about all that you need. And I know there's a few people who are maybe doing this digitally. So I am going to stop sharing my screen and make a comment here really quickly and share my other screen. Okay, so hopefully I'm sharing the correct screen here. If you were going to do this digitally, I'm going to recommend that you assemble this entire page just like the one page, just like it is, and then do a mirror image of it, because the borders around the edges are going to be the same on the 2 pages, and then you're not reproducing your work. The 3 squares are mirrored on the second page, except they just get rid of one. These 2 narrow, all these narrow strips are on the other page. And so then the only thing you're going to actually have to do independently is this vertical photo and photo mat are going to turn into 2 horizontal ones. So let me switch my screen again so you can kind of see that. So the 2 pages are almost mirror images of each other, with the exception that your vertical photo turns into 2 horizontal photos, and that instead of having 3 square photos on the, you have 3 square photos on the left, you only have 2 of them on the right, but they use the third spot as a journaling block. So this is a great opportunity to use the insert mirror image if you're doing this digitally. All right, I think those are all of my tips to kind of get started. And I'm going to show my table. So this is the sample layout that I did, and I used the Advisor exclusive paper pack bold and slate because I thought that it was such some nice colors, but I also thought it would complement the papers that were in Passport to Adventure. So this is what I used, and I must apologize, I did not look up the name of this. It looks like a medallion to me, but I thought it was fairly similar to the style that was in the compass. They actually look like they could go together, right? Here's my compass punch. So they definitely look like they're very complementary to each other. But in order to have this circle be fully on top of the white cardstock circle, I had to use a bigger circle template in order to cut this circle. So again, just a caution as you're going through when you're going to go and cut your circles to match these punches, you want to be attentive to what size circle do you want. So I think I am going to use one of their suggested paper pairings that they had suggested for this. So I don't know, what are other people using tonight? Is anybody else using Passport to Adventure? And if so, are you going to use the ones as they recommend, or are you going to use something different?
I'm copying them exactly.
Beautiful. So then it'll be good that I'm doing slightly different. Excellent. Anybody else?
I'm doing Serene Waters.
Ooh, one of the favorite kits ever.
I'm doing Painted Garden,
Ooh, another
I
beautiful
love Painted
kit.
Garden.
and I'm excited to see you doing a Passport to Adventure, another combination, because I'm curious to see what that's going to look like. I thought it would be good for the ocean when I saw the waves there, or what to me looks like little squiggly waves. I thought
Yeah.
that would be pretty for.
That's what I
ocean
was thinking
photos.
too. So I thought that would be great. I think they're gorgeous papers, wonderful colors. Okay, so again, we need 4 sheets of paper. 2 of them are the base. And as long as you end up with some good contrast between your different papers, you're going to be fine. But I would take a look at their image here, because one piece is going to be used as these narrow strips as a border between your 2 other papers. The other one are going to be these things on the edges as you go around. So when I'm looking at the different collections and what they use, you might want to choose a paper that goes well against the other 2. So I'm thinking this is how I'm going to have my border. I don't think I'm going to want to have my border as being this diagonal stripe. I'm going to have it being this almost white with just a little bit of squares on it. All right, so we should have 3 papers that we're going to cut. You can use whatever color cardstock you want, and let's get going. Yep, now I've had so many papers on my table. My cutting guide's right here. Okay, now I'm ready. So with our first paper, if you are, if direction matters on this paper, I'm going to encourage you to maybe consider picking a different paper, because the way this paper is cut, we're going to be cutting 6 strips, and 4 of them are going to lay horizontal and 2 of them are going to lay vertical. So if your pattern that you're using is directional and it really matters, it may not be an optimal choice for paper A. So paper A, we're going to end up cutting 4 strips that are 1 1/4 inch in width. so 1¼ inch in width. And we're gonna cut 4 of them. Okay, so 4 1¼ inch strips. Then 2 of the strips we're gonna trim, actually all 4 of these strips we're gonna trim to 10¼ So you can stack them or you can do them one at a time, whichever way you like. I was finding mine were, they were bunching up as I was trying to do them individually. It isn't going to end up mattering so much in the end. They're far enough away from each other on the layout that if they are not
10
exact,
1/4 or 10 1/2, Kari?
10¼
10 1/4.
Did I say 10½? I'm sorry.
No, I'm trying to type and cut at the same time.
That's really hard to do, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so those are 4 pieces that are 1¼ by 10¼ and those are going to go across the tops and the bottoms of our page. And then we have these 4 pieces. Now I'm going to actually cut it a little bit differently than what the cutting guide does, and you'll know why in a moment. I'm going to cut the pieces GHI, the 3½ inch strip. So I'm going to do that first. So that's the 3½ inch strip. And then we're going to cut them into squares that are also 3½. So you're going to end up with 3 of them, 3½ inches. And the little piece that's left over is scrap. So you should end up with 3 3½ inch squares. And on their notes, they're using the reverse side, but you can use whatever's going to work for you for photo mats. Now, the reason I cut the 3½ inch piece was because depending on what shape you're punching, you might need that whole entire width. So I wanted to leave a slightly bigger piece for you to actually be able to punch. So we're going to trim this piece down to 9½ inches first before cutting it into 2 pieces. So 9½ inches. And then this one ends up being 1 3/4. We did it right. It ends up being right in the middle. And that is our first paper. So again, what we had was we had 4 pieces that were 1 1/4 by 10 1/4. We had 3 pieces that were 3½ by 3½ inch square. And then we trimmed the remaining piece to 9½ inches and then cut it in half for 1 3/4. So that way our punch piece is a little bit bigger just in case your punch is bigger and you need that. Okay, how are we doing? Cheryl, were you able to get that? Okay.
Yep.
Other ladies, can you give me a thumbs up? Are you good? Yes. Okay. Awesome. So then keep your piece that you're going to use for your punch kind of available so you can actually pull that one out, and we'll work on cutting the next piece of paper. And this one is also a pretty easy one. We're going to cut 6 pieces that are 1/2 inch strips. So we're just going to do 6 of them that are 1/2 inch in width. And that one again is pretty simple. So 6 of them. And we don't have to trim those down or anything, so 6 pieces that are 1/2 inch in width and 12 inches long. Then we're going to trim a 4-inch strip for some photo mats. And we're going to cut this in half at 6 inches. So we end up with 2 photo mats that are 4 by 6. And then the last piece, we're going to get the photo mat out. And if you want to do it so you end up with this nice narrow strip, you can do that. Or you can trim it the other way first. So, but I think I want to go ahead and trim this at 4.5 inches. So I've got this nice strip to use as a scrap. So 4.5 by 6.5. And that's going to be a large photo mat. And now we've got another big block that we can use to punch some of our shapes out. And then we're done with the designer paper number 2. So then depending on what cardstock you're using and what color you're using, you may want to take, they recommended white. So I've got these 2 pieces of paper here. I don't think that this white is going to go well, but maybe this one is going to be fine on it. So I think I'm fine using white as my color for my cardstock. But you may want to just take a quick look and see how the papers that you selected are going to work with this before you start cutting. So we're not going to cut a whole lot here. So on the white cardstock, they have us cutting some 3.5 inch square mats. So I'm going to trim this at 3.5 inch. And then I'm going to do 2 squares that are 3.5. And then I'm going to leave the rest of this for cutting some circles. And I believe we are done with our trimmer. So again, out of that white sheet of cardstock, we just had 2 3.5 inch squares. I didn't really go back, but the second designer paper was these 6 1/2 inch strips, 2 4 by 6 inch mats, and 1 4.5 by 6.5 inch mats. So now we can do our punches. So I like to do all of my punches on a piece of cardboard that comes in with some of our Creative Memories supplies, and punch onto this, and then I can just tip this over because it is covered with parchment paper, and I can tip it right over and put it in the trash can. So here is the brand new compass punch. And we need to get 5 shapes out of it. So they had us getting 4 out of the one piece and 1 out of the other one. That's because they put 4 of them that were the same in the 4 corners of the double page layout, and then they put 1 that was different here above one of the vertical photo. They don't have to be different. They could all be the same. You probably have enough space on this big piece that's left over to do this punches to do all 5 of them here. And actually, if you wanted to do 6 of them, you could probably get all 6 of them out of here as you're working on punching. So there are a lot of little pieces in this, which is the other nice reason to kind of do it over this piece of parchment paper. Lots of little pieces. Right, while you are working on that, I'm just gonna dump this in the trash. What punch is everybody using tonight?
The compass.
Okay, perfect. Lots of little tiny little pieces cut out of the center of those, right?
Yes.
Anybody else? Colleen, Cheryl, what do you?
Haven't decided yet.
All right,
Grab that now.
okay.
Yeah, I don't have my punches with me, so.
Oh, that'll be a later
Yeah,
embellishment.
and I'm doing golf pictures. I was kind of like, maybe just circles.
Circles,
Look
yeah.
like golf balls. I don't know.
Yeah,
I have to wait and
okay,
see what I
awesome.
come up with.
So they, on a CM on the instruction sheet, recommend using the smallest circle with the red blade on the inside. So I just want you to see when I do that. You have to hold this up. It is not expected that the compass, I mean, it's just barely fitting. I don't know. Can you guys see that on my table?
Yeah, that's
Actually,
kinda
with the
cool,
red
though.
line, it is going just over the
Yeah.
if you could actually cut on the edge of the template, it would probably be just perfect for that. So the way they designed this in their instructions, they say to use that template with the red blade. So the whole compass rose, those points are not going to sit inside. If you want to go to the next larger size, the next larger size circle, there's that gap between the 1.5 inch and the 2 inch. So here's what you're going to end up with, a much bigger circle. Instead, you could use the punch, one of the circle punches, and maybe get one that's in between that, but it's totally up to you. On my sample layout, I used this larger circle because the medallion that I was using was larger even than this compass rose. So you have lots of options, but you have choices there. So I'm going to follow their instructions. I'm going to use this smallest circle, the red blade on the inside. So smallest circle pattern with the red blade. So, and we need 5 of these. And just in case I didn't say it, this circle is 1.5 inches in diameter. So if you do not have the custom cutting system and are going using something else, that is the size of these circles. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Good.
I want to tell you, I really liked your sample that you made. I like that punch that you chose.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I
don't remember the name of it either, but I
Yeah.
like it.
I'll have to look that up so I know what it was. It may just be called medallion. It looks like a
It
medallion.
might be. But it looked really good with that paper, kind of looked really good for heritage photos.
Yeah. But I also think I thought the colors went well, even with this passport to adventure.
Oh, yeah.
I
Yep.
thought it was very complimentary in
Yeah.
the colors and the tones. So, all right. So if everybody's doing okay, I'm going to go ahead and just start the layout of this so that then we'll end up pausing the recording. But there are just a couple of things that I want to point out about this. So I'm going to put all my photo mats off to the side as I do this. And my phone is tilting. There. That's better. Okay. So we ended up with 4 pieces that were identical that are going to go on the border at the top and the bottom, and we had 2 wider but shorter pieces that are going to go on the outside edges. So you're going to end up with something like this. And again, if like in mine, I have these patterns, and you may want to pay attention to how the patterns are going. You might not. Unfortunately, because of the fact that this was diagonal, I can't do a whole lot about that. Okay, but the thing I wanted to point out is these strips. So you have a couple of ways of laying down the strips. So you can lay them down so that they are edge to edge with the pieces at the top and the bottom. Right, like this. And when you do that, you end up with a rectangle in your corners. But if you look at their sample, they have a square. It's a square shape with that yellow paper, which means that when you go to put down the vertical strips, you don't want to do it at the edge of these vertical pieces that are on the outside. You're going to want to actually still go right up against the edge of the piece that's at the top and the bottom. I have no idea if I said that and it made sense. So I'm going to do the other page. When you lay down your narrow strips, you want them to go along the edge of your top and your bottom strips. And when you do the piece that's vertical, you want to do the same thing. You want to line it up along the edge of the top and the bottom piece. So that way you end up with these squares in the corners as opposed to the rectangle. All right, so I think we're going to pause the recording for now, and then we'll come back after we've had a chance to put everything down. And I don't think there's anything that I need to say.
Alrighty.
All right, so here is my finished layout without pictures. Again, there was some additional discussion about how to lay down these thin strips to ensure that you get a square. So I really suggest whatever you do, use repositionable adhesive before you stick it down permanently to just try it out. But I laid the narrow strip along the edge of the pieces that was on the border, so both on the top and the bottom, and then the piece that runs vertical, I again laid it right next to, you can kind of see, it's right next to the edge of this piece that's on the bottom and on the top, and that's how I ended up with the squares. If you don't mind ending up with rectangles, it doesn't matter, so you can just lay it down. The other thing is when you're laying down your compass points on your circle, again, the circle's a little bit smaller than the punched compass, so the points will extend, and if you want them all to be the same as you're laying them down, just check your orientation. And because we have 2 photos on the right hand layout that are horizontal, you may have to move these 2 squares out a little bit, shift them up, shift them down, depending on what you're putting with your journaling box. But I think the layout is very simple, very easy, does not have a whole lot of scraps left over, which, as y'all know, that's one of my favorite things because I am terrible about reusing scraps. And again, here was my sample layout using the other paper pack. And this one was using, and we looked it up, it is the medallion punch. And I used slightly larger circles for this, so the medallion would actually fit all entirely inside the circle, and there would be a nice ring around it. So I think we have at least one other person who's can share their layout.
I can do mine.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
So
Oh,
yeah, so it's a the mini golf. So I was thinking I might just put some little circles
Yeah.
and make them look like golf balls. I don't know. I don't have any punches or anything with me to choose. So but I like the layout, and then I didn't have little small photos here, so I was contemplating whether or not I should stick that one in there, but I kind of like it there.
I
So
like it. And that was painted garden.
painted garden, yep.
Really nice. That looks really, really nice. I
Thanks.
like the way
Do
that
we
turned
have
out.
anybody else?
Deanna, are you close enough?
yeah, I can show it. It's not embellished, and it's
That's
pretty
okay.
exact same thing that's on the picture. But yeah, okay.
Oh,
Oh, nice.
So I should explain that almost none of these photos are of the same people or of the same trip.
Oh.
Basically, my grandmother, before she passed away, took all of her candid photos and put them in albums, just a hodgepodge of them, and then gave it to all the grandchildren.
Oh, wow.
And unfortunately, it's a magnetic album, so it's falling apart. And none of them are in chronological order or anything like that. But what she did do is in the front 2 pages, she's got a list of who's in the photo and sometimes what the date is even. And so when I went to the retreat this past weekend and forgot my current album project, I said, well, okay, this must be a sign. And I started little by little pulling them out and making an ABC album out of it, because like I said, they're not chronological. They're not even like the same people over and over again. So this is the page that's letter T for travel. And there's several pictures in the album of like my parents and I in Italy, or one of my cousins in San Francisco, or one of my aunts and uncles on a plane, etc. And then I added some photos that were in another magnetic album of a trip I took with my grandparents and parents to Hawaii. So yeah, it's kind of a hodgepodge of photos, but I used the top loading sleeves for the first time. I was really proud of myself for that.
That's awesome.
that's a great idea.
That is.
Really great idea.
The page looks great. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Anyone else? Lynn, do you have your digital?
I do have my digital.
Okay, so go ahead and you can share your screen.
So no
Ooh.
photos.
Nice.
No photos. Obviously with digital, I don't really necessarily have a punch, but I looked for a shape that was generic.
Yeah, nice.
And I ended up using that shape at the top of my journaling.
Yeah,
It's
cute.
the same shape
Cool.
at the top of my journaling there. So that was just a little bit of whimsy, I guess.
Nice. I like that collection. That's great. I love the blues.
The Moody
That'll-
Blues. Yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't have many embellishments, so I
Oh.
just chose to stick these on there. It has a lot of blueprint builder type shapes on it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks.
Colleen.
I need two
Okay,
seconds.
that's okay. I can share my screen. Okay, here we go. All right, so I did the layout
Ooh.
digitally also, and I am going to record how to do this and do this mirroring of the image and stuff, but I used there's a collection each month that Forever is coming out with called Winning Combinations. And I'm using the one from January because we can still get it 50% off through tomorrow, which is nice. And so this had a whole bunch of blues and wintry stuff, but I thought it was really nice. So
Very pretty.
I did this
Mm.
one. The winning combinations for February is a lot of pinks and peaches and reds, and that one's on still 50% off now through mid next month. And I use that one to try to do the other layout, which I'll share later on. Okay, so Colleen, did
Ready.
that give you enough time?
Yep, I'm ready. Nothing falls off. So I used Serene Waters.
Oh. Oh, that turned out really nice.
Super pretty.
Okay, what are the pictures on the right-hand page? The square ones that are like, look like they've got purple or
Yeah,
pink?
that's in the sand. We don't know.
Ooh.
It's Brewster's Flats, the largest. That's one photo. I just cut it in half.
Oh, nice.
That is it's the largest tidal flat in the northern hemisphere. It goes for miles and miles and miles, and we always see this.
Those
You-
colors.
Wow.
That's neat.
Amazing. And then
That's pretty.
look at these. Sorry.
They're upside down.
But look at the little
Oh,
What is that, giant snail?
snail?
And then this
Wow.
guy is another snail, but it's hard to see on the screen, but it's just stunning.
Oh,
You just
nice.
start walking out when it's like that, and then you come back and there's no water.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Nice.
So anyway, this was great. I loved it. Thanks, Kari.
You're welcome. Well, and I have not created an album in the Facebook group, but I will do that before the evening is done so people can post their photos. So if you do this layout after watching the recording, we would love to see what you do, and please share it on our Facebook group. So again, everybody, thank you so much for joining us this evening, and we will see you all. We're back next week with photo time night we are working on our photo process. There were a couple people in January who asked us to kind of go back and review some of the things that we did. It was back like in November of 2022 or October of 2022, and kind of recap that and look at that since we set some photo goals. So we're going to be doing some of that next week. But even if you're going to be working on something and you just want to come and hang out with us, you are more than welcome. So again, happy Valentine's Day, and we look forward to seeing some of your projects soon. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Kari.
Thanks, Kari.